Good morning, everyone. Oh, not morning where you're at? That's okay, because you can have eggs for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Welcome to Three Eggs Better Than One, the 10th episode. I am Brad Stanton with my fellow eggs, Brian Haremza and Matt M. Fellas, we are now in double digits.
We made it.
We did
We would
it.
like to thank everyone for all the positive feedback from last week. If you don't remember what it was, mole, mole, mole. But you know what? It's been such a positive week for all three of us. Let's kick the sunny side up right now to Bryant.
The craziness of the week, the snow, the ice, the call-ins, people not doing their job. My sunny side up is that I made it through the week without yelling, hurting, or just naturally screaming at somebody. Because this week, I don't know about my fellow eggs, has been a very off week. And surviving, that's my sunny side up. So, Brad.
Wow, that was so original, Bryant.
Dude, it's
How in the world did you come up with that?
I'm trying not to cry right now as I do all this. It's been that kind of a week.
So we are recording this on a Friday night, little peek behind the curtain, because last night Brad had to watch dun 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 dun. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish beat the Penn State Nittany Lions to move on to the national championship against, we're not sure yet. Currently, it is 7-0 Ohio State over Texas. So, as a born and raised Notre Dame Irish fan, it was an unbelievable game. I got hammered during it, completely hammered, but I really enjoyed it because it was exciting and stressful all at the same time. But when your team comes up on top, all that goes away. So that's what's over with me this week. Matt?
Yeah, so like Brian said, it's in some levels it's been a tough week for all of us, but I think we should acknowledge there's a lot of people in Southern California having a much, much worse week than us. So we want to, send our thoughts and our love and everything to everyone affected by the wildfires. It's currently still going on when, in present time. So it felt it was important enough we should mention that.
Definitely.
Okay. For my sunny side up,
Oh, I thought that was it.
that is not. That is not. No one there is having a sunny side up. So I don't have one either. I am hijacking the show, and I'm going to do a little bit of follow up from last week and answer some listener questions, and I'll try to do it quickly. First of all, my weekly Paperboy update. This week the paper was left in the street directly in front of my house. No explanation. Never. I've never seen a paperboy just throw it into in the middle of the street.
Did you leave him a holiday tip? Maybe that will help.
No holiday tip. He did want one. I don't even know who he is. Okay. Next, a listener pointed out to me that Brad, one of your mole definitions from last week, the sauce is pronounced mole. Mole sauce, not mole. So that came from Eric B. Also, and feel free to jump in and rebut whenever.
Sure. Well, I assumed it was Mike B.
What?
Bober.
Oh no. No. So we did a lot of talking about Home Alone, and so obviously that stars Macaulay Culkin. His brother, Kieran Culkin, who is also an actor and probably does a lot more these days, just won a Golden Globe this week. And I don't know how I stumbled across this, but I felt like the biggest idiot in the world because I didn't realize Kieran Culkin plays Fuller in Home Alone 1 and 2. It's his actual brother playing the little cousin character. It's so obvious. How did I miss that?
Looks just like him.
How did I miss that?
Oh, I just assumed it was known.
I missed it. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, kind of. Fuller. Because you
Call
made
yourself-
such a point about, and of course, Fuller.
Fuller.
And
I'm
you
an
call
idiot.
yourself a movie person.
Yeah.
So, I had a miss. All right. Also, last week we talked about Euro Trip, which I had never seen. I knew there was something like that I had seen, and I looked it up. It was a much older movie, National Lampoon's Senior Trip.
Ugh.
Came out in the 90s and was absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
And actually, the star was Jeremy Renner, but it was many years ago and he was a lot younger and not the star that he is now. And finally, listener, long old friend of mine, Jimmy James C. He was very offended that I had never had a cherry, and he asked the following questions: if I was served an old fashioned, the cocktail, with a delicious maraschino cherry in it, preferably the Luxardo brand, would it ruin the drink? No. I just would drink the drink and I wouldn't consume the cherry. So there's your answer. God damn it. Um, what else did he want to know? If I was served an ice cream sundae with a cherry on top, do I remove the cherry in disgust but eat the ice cream? Do I just throw the whole thing away? Do I try the cherry and realize it's delicious? No, I'm definitely not trying the cherry. I just simply remove the cherry and enjoy the ice cream. But if there's whipped cream on that sundae, I can't touch it. Whipped cream is disgusting.
Is disgusting. Have you tried whipped cream?
I've had whipped cream. Yeah.
Because you have not, many of the things you don't like, you've never tried and don't
That's
have
not
any.
true.
Many. There's many.
Many, yes.
Many. I don't like white creamy things. I'm sure that's going to come up routinely on the show. So that's my sunny side up.
Yeah, you need to try more things. You're a grown ass man, and grown ass men need to try things before they can say they don't like them.
That's a future segment. Matt does something he's never done before that most people have.
So the whole coffee thing, you don't drink coffee. You not drink cappuccino? You not drink tea?
No. Tea.
So you don't drink any hot beverage?
No, I have no patience, so I don't like hot things that much.
What?
I don't really like soup.
You like hot chocolate?
Not really. I mean, I've had it, sure.
You know, most food is hot.
Yeah.
No, hot liquids. I mean,
how can you not do hot chocolate?
Yeah, he has chili whenever he wants, all the time. Chili
I don't like being served hot liquids that I can't consume. You know, you got to wait. You're going to burn your mouth. You're going to
gotta wait that long.
No, you act like you're waiting hours. You're waiting like maybe 5 minutes.
I don't have to wait any time for a cold drink. I just drink it.
I don't know. Sometimes drinks are too cold.
I suppose that's a possibility. not a routine problem that I have.
Wow, this is a really long sunny side up.
Let's move on.
Since it wasn't even a sunny side up at all.
Let's move on.
All right, let's get to the hard boiled. First off, let's talk about how Matt doesn't know how to do it.
Hard boiled. What did you say? I cut you off.
That's okay. Everybody else heard it. That's all that matters. So Verizon has a commercial right now where they say they'll take any trade-in phone. Awesome. Guess what? I'll take any trade-in car. Doesn't mean I'm going to give you more than $1 for it. It is such a scam. Of course they're going to take a trade-in with no dollar amount attached to it. This is such a sales scam. How do people fall for this shit? I don't know how people can do this sales business, I'll tell you. But yes, they'll take any trade. Well, great. Yeah, I can trade a boat. Doesn't mean that I'm going to give you $10,000 for it. I may just trade it and not give you anything. I'll take it. I'll just trade. Okay? Ridiculous that people fall for this crap. There were 5 people in the gym yesterday. It was like a Tuesday. And all of them were doing leg day. All right, listen. Let's all get on some different rotations here. I was trying to work out. There's 5. Nobody's on a weight bench. Nobody's on the shoulder press. Nobody is on any equipment except for leg day equipment. What are we all in the same rotation? No. Come on. Think about me. Think about me and what I need. You know what's funny? My wife has bought 2 things now on Facebook Marketplace. Have you guys ever done that? Facebook Marketplace purchasing? No. Okay. So you actually go to these people's houses, right?
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Is there anything at all more awkward than going to this house and buying somebody's used ass furniture?
Terrible.
I'm walking down like it's row home in Philadelphia. And row home is, so you guys know, they're attached to each other. It's kind of like of the way of Philadelphia in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And so these stairs are old stairs, and I'm going down like these skinny stairs with like a dresser and with my son going backwards, and they're slippery. And this guy is like trying to direct me that I don't know. I don't want to be involved in that. Many years ago, we decided we wanted to foster some kittens. Okay. And we were fostering cats until they found a home. So I don't know. My wife's like, just go down to Philadelphia. I can't be there because we have to be at the dance competition. You and Frank go down. and they're going to give you the kittens to bring home. I go, okay. So I go to the house. They're not in the house. Okay. They're not in the house at all. I knock on this people's house. They do not speak English. People do not speak English. And the cats are outside living under like their porch. And I have to go get them. One of which is really sad, was dead in the water, drowned. And they said, no, you got to take all of them. No, I'm not doing this. So then the other cat is like feral. Is that the word? And wants to bite me. So I'm not interested in this little thing my wife has me do where I go down to the city and get furniture and kittens. That is hard boiled. Do you have anything, Matt? Did you write anything down?
For hard boiled?
Well, usually something I say you take
Oh,
notes.
rebuttals.
If you will.
No, I'm gonna let it be. I don't want to I don't want to poke the bear any further.
I don't pay you as a cat guy.
We have cats. I'm not a cat guy necessarily. I don't dislike cats.
Did you find out the snake's name?
No.
No.
Until next week, right?
Yeah,
No.
it's the 6-man belt.
We did, but we did foster kittens for a while, and now we don't do that anymore because then she started keeping them. So and I know how you like animals, Matt.
I have okay. I just don't love dogs like most people. That's all.
Do you have any animals in the house?
I wish them no harm.
It's
No,
two
my wife's
snakes.
kind of allergic to stuff.
Do you have a turtle?
We have nothing. We had a fish until
Beta fish?
uh it was one of those fighting fish. It
Yeah.
had to live by its own.
Yeah, in the stupid little bowl all by itself for the rest of its life.
Mhm.
What a great life.
It died.
They're hard to take care of, aren't they?
Flash. I remember my pet's name at least.
Yeah, and it really went fast in there in the bowl that surrounds it. This is the size of a
We
small
probably
bowl.
had it for like 18 months.
It's a big 18 months.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to kick it back to you, Matt, here for duck eggs. What is duck eggs again?
I believe it's obscure facts.
Oh,
But what we're going to talk about, I don't know if it qualifies. I'd like to talk about Girl Scout cookies.
good.
Now, I've got some information here from Wikipedia. If I don't cite something, just assume it's Wikipedia. And yes, I realize Wikipedia is not, it's just written by whoever, but I'm not trying to look up any legal stuff or anything that we really need. Okay. So this topic was inspired by I already mentioned him, Eric B., old friend of mine. So what are Girl Scout cookies? They are cookies sold by the Girl Scouts to raise money for Girl Scout councils and individual troops. The cookies are widely popular and are commonly sold by going door to door, online, through school or town fundraisers, or at cookie booths set up at storefronts. The program is intended to both raise money and improve the financial literacy of girls. During an average selling season, January through April, which is now, more than 1 million girls sell over 200 million packs of cookies and raise over $800 million. Girl Scout councils select one of 2 national bakeries to buy cookies from. That's actually what I found to be interesting, was there's actually 2 bakeries that you can choose from, and probably do it regionally. So, obscure facts. Here's some noteworthy dates. 1917, the first known Girl Scout cookie sales by an individual troop in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Never been to Oklahoma. Fast forward to 2005, they started to remove trans fats. Fast forward to 2015, online sales began, which is actually 10 years ago. But I think I'm surprised it didn't start prior to that. Like, they've only been selling it online for 10 years. Seems like they were missing out. I don't know. I guess because then the Girl Scouts don't have to actually do anything.
Yeah, it's a
right?
personal touch, though.
Yeah. 2021, there were 15 million unsold boxes due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Also 2021, Lily Bumpus, a childhood cancer survivor, broke the record, selling 32,484 boxes. So the last part here is the 2 bakeries used are ABC Bakers and Little Brown Bakers. And in some cases, they use different names for the same cookie. For example, both bakeries call the thin peppermint flavored chocolate wafers Thin Mints. But as for the vanilla cookies coated in caramel sprinkled with toasted coconut and laced with chocolate stripes. ABC calls those caramel delights, but Little Brown Bakers calls them Samoas. My personal favorite, which I'm quite certain I'm going to catch hell for, are the trefoils, which are the traditional shortbread cookies and the most boring out of the batch. I can easily take down a sleeve of those. So, what do you guys have to say about Girl Scout cookies?
So this is an
Sure, you've
excellent
had them.
duck eggs. Excellent duck eggs. All right. I did know a lot of this. I did know about the two bakeries, and I did know like I think one's called Tagalongs, right? And
Yep.
then
Yeah, I
yeah.
didn't put the whole list in there, but that's
No, but
correct.
that's interesting. And I really do I like the shortbread cookies. I think they're really good. My favorite are always going to be the Thin Mints, though. I think the peanut butter cup ones are a ripoff, and because I like a ripoff of a Reese cup. I'd rather just have a Reese cup.
Reese's.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, very good. No, listen. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. We were my wife was a cookie mom for my daughter when she was a Girl Scout or a Brownie, and we had a ton of them in the house, and the ones we didn't sell, I ended up eating. Brian?
Right. I'm sure you've had them.
I don't know where to begin on this one here, guys. So I have a bank account that's specifically designed for Girl Scout cookies. Girl Scouts know to come to my home. I'm known to buy them by cases, not boxes. And I have. Remember, I said my New Year's resolution was to get in better shape. It ends when Girl Scout season starts because I just buy them all. Thin Mints, Caramel Delights, Simones, whatever you want to call them. Toasty Yums is my new one. It's a French toast cookie. Amazing. Recommended for anyone who's out there. I love Girl Scout cookies. It's my favorite time of year. And yeah, I buy them by the case because I love them so much.
I'm so happy to hear this.
Yeah.
So, do you know Lily Bumpus, who sold 32,484 boxes?
My joke was going to be I bought 30,000 of those, but yeah, I actually have to. Sue makes it very well known that I have a budget when it comes to cookie season, because if not, I will go absolutely insane. Before I had a family member whose daughter joined Girl Scouts, they would set up booths right outside my local Walmart. And the girls knew when I was coming because they would see me and just get excited and just start getting boxes ready for
That's
me.
great.
So yeah, this is a near and dear subject to my heart.
And not rehearsed. I didn't know this.
Definitely not.
No.
Definitely not.
All
Excellent
right.
job, Adam. Very, very good. Very good duck eggs, my friend. Which brings us to Over Easy. Now, what is Over Easy, you ask? Who's over with us this week? Which means who are we really? Who are we happy about? What are we excited about? So right back to you, Bryant.
Who's over with me this week? It would be me plugging a podcast as well. It would be Al Getz with the Charting the Territories podcast. He has announced that he will be doing a panel and stuff in Waterloo, Iowa this year at the George Tragos Luthez Hall of Fame weekend. And Al is someone who I met last year, have gotten to know a little well through correspondence through social media, and he's helping me kind of learn a little bit more about my nerddom and wrestling fandom and history, and learning about people I never knew before, and learning about territories, and just catching up on things that, quite frankly, you have to really be, as I said, a nerd to want to know about this stuff. And Al is over with me with his podcast and just being a good guy to chit chat back and forth with. So, Brad?
Awesome. I don't really have a rebuttal on that. Do you have anything on that, Matt?
No rebuttal. Just a thumbs up.
Yeah, thumbs up for sure. So I am also going to put over a Over With Me podcast this week. And the show that we all three love, Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. Bruce is out temporarily, and in his place is John Layfield, who is a wrestler in the WWE and all over the place. Big personality. It has been so enjoyable to listen to him tell stories. And he is not Bruce Pritchard. The show is completely different, but I love it, and I hope. Well, I don't even have to hope. He actually has another show that is stories with Bradshaw and go ahead, Bryant.
Gerald Briscoe.
Yes. And his stories are so fantastic. So whether you're a wrestling fan or not, it really doesn't matter, because these stories really aren't about wrestling. They're about the fun he had with other wrestlers in the locker room, the referees. He did a show about the troops. Man, it was just so good. So good. It is so entertaining. They're a couple hours long, and I can't wait for the next one. So yes, that's what's over with me this week.
They're great, very insightful, good topics, and we've done a lot. We've all consumed a lot of these wrestling podcasts, and he's got a fresh take on a lot of that stuff. So definitely over with me. But what's over with me? Not a podcast, but it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'll explain why. And I want a disclaimer: by the time this is available to listeners, the first week of the playoffs will have already happened. We don't know the results, but Mike Evans, wide receiver for the Bucs, Super Bowl 45 champion, 5-time Pro Bowl selection, now has 11 straight seasons of 1,000 receiving yards, tying only Hall of Famer the great Jerry Rice. In Week 18, the last week of the season, Evans caught a 9-yard pass on the final play of the game of the regular season, bringing him to 1,004 yards on the season and extending his streak to 11 seasons, which secured him a $3 million incentive bonus. The Bucs could have just taken a knee to end the game with a win and advance to the playoffs, but instead of doing that, they passed on the ball to get over the 1,000 yards and get this really awesome record and obviously the money. That was a little tougher for him this season because he missed a few games due to injury. And I just think that's really commendable that the organization did that. I mean, they have to shell out $3 million of their own money just by allowing this to happen. And, because he's a good guy, he's a deserving player. And I'm not a Bucks fan, but I thought that was really awesome that that happened.
Makes you really want to play for that kind of ownership and team and coach, right?
It's really, I really applaud that because
Yeah.
I love football, but I don't know if I love the NFL and how everything is managed, you know. There's a lot of crummy things. We could talk all day about the bad officiating and front office garbage and stuff like that. But so the Bucks are over with me.
He is invaluable to that organization too, because when he wasn't in, they lost their games.
I mean, he has quietly had an amazing career, you know. I don't know if he's ever in the top 5 of, receivers picked in fantasy and stuff like that. Just to make an example of where he falls. But I mean, 11, only him and Jerry Rice did this. So
Yeah, and he was pretty good.
you have to be in the league for 11 years. You have to be healthy for 11 years. You have to be good for 11 years.
And he's had different quarterbacks
And
for
quarterback.
most of his team, for most of his time there too.
I
I
mean,
mean, he's had Baker the last few years, but you got to
Plenty
think
of-
he's doing it with different people,
Yeah.
making it even
he
more
did have
impressive.
Brady, but plenty of those years. I mean, the Bucks have had some awful years. They're not
Yes.
always. They were only at the top with Brady, really.
I mean, it's a hell of an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And it's the organization who's over with you though, not necessarily him, but the
No, the
organization.
organization.
Yeah,
I
that's
wrote
good.
Tampa
I
Bay
like that.
Buccaneers.
Huh?
I wrote Tampa Bay Buccaneers
Yeah,
as
very good.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think we did it, huh? So, brings us to the main topic of the week, the omelet, if you will. Bryant, what was it again?
Well, this sparks from a conversation with a friend of mine. He was explaining to me how he's in a rivalry with his neighbor. And I said, "Well, what do you mean you're in a rivalry?" He's like, "Well, we just compete at everything. We're just natural rivals." And I said, "No, you're just neighbors. That's how neighbors work." And it just made me think of, the understanding of what a rivalry is. So stealing a little bit of the Brad topic of, the definition of a rivalry is a competition for the same objective or for superiority in the same field. Now, as a neighbor, what are you competing for? My house looks better. My yard is better. You're still competing with the entire neighborhood at that point. Why just your neighbor? So, in that sense, what makes a good rivalry? It's competition between two individuals, teams, people pushing you to be better, improve yourself, that excitement or drama, whatever you're doing. How are you doing that with your neighbor? You're not. But the thing that got me was as I started kind of comparing rivalries and talking to him about, trying to mainly just dispel and just prove he was jealous of his neighbor, not in a rivalry. It kind of made me think of, what makes a rivalry fun? I look at my wrestling fandom. What makes a rivalry fun? It's a story that pulls me in. We're all sports fans. What makes a rivalry special to you guys? Our teams together, who we play. We all, the joke is always everybody doesn't like Dallas. I know Brad doesn't as a Philly fan, but the rivalry is always what I feel makes a story, but it also, everybody has one. It was through doing this I realized that we all have a rivalry, whether we know it or not. For us, it could be sports. For us, it's wrestling as well. But as I went through this, the rivalries between countries, families, the famous story of the Hatfields and the McCoys, it's a famous rivalry through time. But the thing that makes the rivalry different, and the reason I was able to dispel my friend so easily, was usually some of these involve like winning prizes, families, and with these family stories, it involves killing people. To have a rivalry with your neighbor, you're not killing him, you're not winning a prize over him. But what makes the rivalry, but what you can have is your fandom. Your fandom makes the rivalry so much better. So, do you guys, I will pass on to my eggs here. Is there a rivalry that you guys have, whether it's sports or through wrestling, that you have enjoyed, or really, when it happens, you pay more attention?
Go ahead, Matt. Go first.
Okay, well, I did prepare something that I'll get to, but sports wise, certainly being a Yankees fan, I have the very easy Yankees Red Sox rivalry to point to, especially 20-ish years ago in the early 2000s. They were both powerhouse teams and battling it out in the playoffs every year with, the A-Rods and the David Ortizes and Manny Ramirez's and all that. I mean, the Giants, just anytime we play anybody else in the division, seems like it's some sort of brutal battle. But I went completely in a different direction with this. If I
No, by all means.
where I should go. How about the Nintendo versus Sega rivalry from the 90s, known as the console war? I mean, that's why I grew up, basically grew up in the 90s. I grew up with video games. I was a Nintendo guy. I was firmly on the Nintendo side of the war. I never had Sega. I never had a Genesis. I had the original Nintendo. I had the Super Nintendo, and I had Nintendo 64. That was the progression. But I really want to recommend a documentary to you guys and our listeners. It's from 2020. It's called Console Wars. It is available for streaming on Paramount Plus. It was actually the first original film that was ever available for that platform, which used to be known as CBS All Access. And it was directed by Jonah Tulis and Blake J. Harris. It's about the 90s console wars between Nintendo and Sega in the 16-bit era, the rise and fall of Sega in the home console market. It's based on a book. And it's pretty interesting because it talks about how, I never thought of it this way. Obviously, Mario was probably the most well-known video game character ever, Super Mario. There's millions of, so many games that he's been featured in. And they put a lot into saying, like, if they didn't have like a mascot like that, video games may not have had such popularity. And I never thought of it that way. And Sega was desperate to come up with a Mario of their own. And the best that they ever came up with was Sonic the Hedgehog. And that was successful. And they started to, if you bought a Genesis, you'd get the Sonic game with it. So that's when that's when they were at their most evenly matched in the war, is when the Sonic thing sort of broke through. Now, of course, there's Mario. Here we are many, many years later, and they're still making Mario movies and Sonic movies, and it's I love that stuff. So I would recommend that documentary and that's about a cool rivalry.
Wow. That is not where I expected anyone to go with this. So I got two things, Bryant, if you're good.
No, go for it. That's
One
what
is
this is
I
for.
grew up in Western Pennsylvania. Now I am an Eagles fan now. I've been here since 2001, and you changed, and I changed. I live I the city and the teams grew on me. But as a kid, I was a Pittsburgh Steeler fan, and back in the 80s and early 90s, the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers, it was a war. And part of the reason that was even such a big deal in my town was I was exactly an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 15, hour and a half from Pittsburgh, and an hour and 15, hour and a half from Cleveland. So everybody, it was a very split area of who you rooted for. And like my dad's brother was a Browns fan, and my dad's a Steelers fan. And it was a really sad thing. And I don't remember the exact year when the Cleveland Browns moved and went to Baltimore, and you realize how much you really need that rivalry and how important it was to both cities. And I don't think they ever got it back after that to the way where it is to where it was then. I remember that stadium was so loud that Bernie Kosar, the center right over top of his head. I'll never forget that game. It was like 9-7, and it's just one of those things. It was just amazing. Now, this other one, Bryant and Matt, you might remember, this might be under your neighbor kind of way of thinking, but I had a year-long war on, it was Twitter at the time, it's X now, Twitter with another podcaster. Her name is Amy Vaughn, where she didn't like a couple of the things I was saying, and I didn't like a couple of the things she was saying, and then we would have kind of a Twitter war, and then she would come on the Kickout Crew, and then they would talk about me on there, and finally, after months and months and almost a year of bickering and giving each other attitude, it ended in the ring when she kicked me in my extremities lower and pinned me for the 1, 2, 3. Of course, as wrestling fans, this was a lot of fun, and that is some of the most fun I've ever had, and that was my rivalry.
No, and that was a fun rivalry. We got to really live the Amy one quite a bit.
Good payoff.
It was
Oh, it was a great payoff.
couldn't believe it happened. I
Yeah.
really couldn't believe it happened.
So, but like the examples, even like with what Matt gave with the console wars, it goes into that thought that, there's always a rivalry out there, even if it's ones that we don't, to us might not notice, but there's always something out there for someone. And the biggest thing I learned from this rivalry, where I was looking through rivalries, looking up things, was how little it takes to start one. What it takes is, just, console wars, for example, you're winning over the people. Hatfields and the McCoys was a land dispute. Rivalries in sports, it's, you play this team all the time. It's those opportunities and those moments to, as like I said with the definition, to make yourself better. And the rivalry always brings the best out of everyone around it. The fan bases on sports teams, maybe not, but it's what you always strive for, is to beat your rival. And sometimes that's what you need. You need your rival to make yourself better, because it makes you go harder, try harder, and do more to try to reach the top. So not the longest of topics, but it's just something that as I dug into it, just got me interested, and I thought it was fun. So that's my topic this week.
Well, it's fun to talk about.
All right, I have a couple follow-ups here. First of all, I feel like I need to hear more about your friend who had the neighbor rivalry. Like, can we get some specifics? Like,
So
are they blowing their leaf piles back and forth over the invisible line between their yards? What's going on?
it was more a game of one-upsmanship. My friend built a fence, so the neighbor built a bigger fence.
Ah,
My buddy got this. He did like these he got brand new windows for his house. Neighbor got windows himself and he repainted his house. The neighbor painted his house. So he just viewed it as, a rivalry of the guy trying to one up him as he was just trying to improve his own home.
yeah.
And really, I'm like, no, he's just probably seeing what you're doing and goes, I like that. And take your idea.
Right.
That's all it really was. But
Keeping up with the Joneses.
yes.
Rivalry-ish.
But the thing was, when he would, when I'd be like, well, did you ask him about it? Well, no, he's just doing it. Why don't you just ask him? Why don't you just go over and talk to him? Like, what are you doing? to see what the heck is going on.
So the other thing I wanted to say is just a stupid little tidbit because you were talking about the Hatfields and the McCoys. So a longtime coworker of mine, his last name is Hatfield. I'm not gonna share his real first name. I'll make it up though. Let's say it's Thomas Hatfield.
Thomas, it
So
is.
um, so at one point we had a new hire joining us who had the same first name, Thomas. So we were not happy about that. We didn't want to have to be distinguishing between two people with the same name. And for some reason, we started calling him Thomas McCoy, even though that was not his last name. So we had our own Hatfield and McCoy in the office.
Yeah, love it.
All right, Brian. Very good. Very good. Which leads us to fried eggs. Now, what is fried eggs again? We'll start with you, Matt.
Fried eggs is fads, things that were popular in and out. So I was trying to think of some things from my childhood, and I'm going to talk about Pogs. Remember Pogs? They were really lame. Brad, do you even know what I'm talking about?
No, no.
Wow. Bryant, you nerdy MFers don't know what I'm talking about with Pogs? Okay. Well, I looked it up on my favorite website, Wikipedia. The game was believed to have originated in the 20s or 30s, and it was known as milk caps. Flat, circular cardboard milk caps were stacked, and then players would take turns dropping a heavier object or a slammer onto the stack, causing the caps to be disrupted. The player would keep all the face up ones and then restack the face down ones, and you keep going until somebody's collected them all. So in the 90s, there was a resurgence in popularity, and I remember having Pogs, and you could, they'd have little the characters on them, Mario or Sonic or Pokemon or something. And then you'd have a slammer, and you could go buy these things, and it was just like a heavier disc that you would smack. I mean, it was kind of the dumbest game ever, which is why it was a fad.
Oh, I didn't hear what you were saying right. Now I know.
Pogs.
Yes.
So here's what I learned. Here's what I learned that I had no idea, and I thought this was interesting. I like doing our show and doing the research because you dig deeper into something that you thought you knew a little bit about, and you find out a little bit more. So it's the name Pogs originates from, I guess they used to use the juice caps, the bottles and the juice was called Pog, passion fruit, orange, and guava, Pog. So I guess that's where it came from. But I mean, if you tried to buy Pogs now, maybe it's eBay and you're buying something that's 30 or 40 years old. I'm pretty sure they're not making those anymore. And that's my fried egg.
Fantastic. Man, you are prepared this week. There you are.
I
Not
told you I was prepared this week.
Uh, so mine, excuse me. In 2001, Chrysler came out with a new, I'm a car guy-ish. I mean, I've been in the car business since 2001. Chrysler came out with a car called the PT Cruiser. Now, the PT Cruiser, although it was just on the frame of a Dodge Neon, believe it or not, which was the car that also was out back then, it had the look of a 1930s car. It was so popular when it first came out that there was a year waiting list for it, and we were only selling them at list price because they were just so unique. They were made until 2010. By 2000 and I think 5 or 6, you could not give them away. Okay, they run its course. It was no longer the cool car to have, and I just think that is a perfect example of a fad. It was
Yeah,
this unbelievable hot item
it happened.
that to the point where they were like when they were used later, they were selling for less than $8,000, $7,000. And it's like as 2 or 3 year old vehicles. Um, so yeah, it was a neat idea. Probably lasted a little bit too long. The thing was there was not anything more to the car other than they had just an old look to it, like a 1930s look. There was nothing else special about the
Yeah.
vehicle.
I feel like I can picture it. Now,
I should have had a picture.
I'm not looking it up, but I want to say that I thought they looked like a hearse.
Yeah, a little
like
bit.
a thing that people would say about it.
Hmm.
Just kind of had that shape to it. I mean, it definitely had a unique appearance. You knew what it was.
Yeah, it was a good idea. It just lasted too long.
That's
Just
so
lasted.
that's so weird. I mean, that's a good fried egg because like why would a car just yeah. You know what
It
else
was.
could qualify? You know what other car could qualify? It's a Hummer. People
Um.
people used to have those like all over the place. I don't see them anymore.
So the best was the original one was a military vehicle,
Yeah, sure. But
and then and
the civilian style one.
only the rich of the rich had it.
Yeah.
And then they came out with what's called the H2, and that was the one that everybody was getting, but still was a lot of money. Then and then the H3, which was a five-cylinder vehicle, S- small, stupid. Ah, they ruined it. They ruined it for everyone. But a good example as well.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bryant? What do you got?
Well, for mine, I'm going to thank my nephew for this because he recently found something that made me feel nostalgic. When I was younger, I used to have what was called a Tamagotchi. It is a little, I'm going to call it a handheld game. It's not really, but it's just a little electronic device, and you had a pet on there, and you had to feed it and take care of it and keep it alive, and it would make noises to let you know when it needed something, and you would just keep this whatever this was alive, and that was the purpose of it. It could live for a day, it could live for months, depending on how well you took care of it. And my nephew found one through eBay, shockingly enough, but he bought it for himself as a gift because he just wanted to see what it was because he had heard people talking about it. And watching him play with it made me realize how truly dumb it really was. Because not dumb, but like for us as a kid, it's exciting. But as an adult now, looking back on it, it made no sense. But it was something that as a kid, I was obsessed with it. Like I did everything I could. I would wake up in the middle of the night just to make sure my little guy was still alive and take care of him the best I could. And it was something that at the time was the coolest thing on the planet to me. So that was my fad that I was into.
This is good. So I think that I feel like Brad's gonna know very little about this because he's the
Sure.
old man of the group. I think
Sure.
I was actually too old for that when it came out, but I definitely remember it. I just feel
Mm-hmm.
like maybe my sister, who's younger than me, I think her age group had those. And I feel like isn't there like a current version? I mean, there must be. There's so many
Yes.
games.
There's another one that there's a current version for it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But I remember, um, and it was popular.
It was the thing. Like if you
It's
were
that
in school
Furby
and
era.
if you didn't have one in school, you were just out of the
Yeah,
loop on everything.
yeah. I remember. I remember. I didn't own one, but I remember using one. It must have been somebody I knew.
Mhm.
Just like, "Well, what's this fad? Let me go. Yeah,
I have no idea.
yeah. It was like you had to take care of it.
Yeah.
It's like your generation was they sent you home from home ec with an egg, and they told you to keep it alive for a week. That was your Tamagotchi.
I
I was gonna say Brad's Tamagotchi was a pet rock, but
Yeah,
had to sew my own apron for home ec.
yeah. I feel like I did that too.
Yeah, I didn't
They,
do a good job. I know that. I think she did
I
it
don't
for me.
think they have home ec anymore.
That
Not as
was good though. That was fun. It was worse classes, you know.
yeah.
So I have a double topic this week, but they're short. So I don't know if I ever updated the outline.
You made some ridiculous comment in the outline.
So I have what's called the golden egg, and I have another duck egg. Wait a minute. Two duck eggs on one show? What is this, amateur hour? That's from Seinfeld. I don't know if anybody realizes. But my golden egg, what is, I reviewed a movie. Now, there was a lot of debate in the group chat about this. So, what it is, it's the second Joker movie. Do you know does anybody know how to say what they call this second Joker movie?
Folia do or
Thank
folia
you.
Folly
What
I
does that
do.
word?
Yeah,
Oh,
Folly I
thank
folia
do.
do?
Thank you so much because
Yeah.
I just could not get it right. I played it a number of times on YouTube and I could not get like the wording. Anyway, I'm going to do a somewhat of a review of what I think about this movie. I know it's a popular movie that a lot of people reviewed and talked about on podcasts, but I just have my own opinion about it. First off, having someone in first person that's a villain, like a first person character, like the main character, is always interesting to me. It's hard to root against someone when you are seeing them in this light. And Joaquin Phoenix is absolutely a star. He is a star. It's like you can't root against Tony Soprano in The Sopranos. Why? Because he's the main character. So actually, you're rooting against the cops. But the cops are really supposed to be the good guy, not the mafia boss, right? I do feel that the Joker, the second Joker, did alienate their audience from the first movie. However, I'm not one of them. I like so many different kinds of movies. I like Rocky. I like Karate Kid. I like Miracle. I like Happy Gilmore. I like Tommy Boy. I like The Nightmare on Elm Street, American Psycho, The Sixth Sense. But I also like The Greatest Showman and Wicked. And they're musicals. And this is a musical. Phoenix proves how unbelievably talented he is. He can sing. He loses a ridiculous amount of weight for this part. He is so believably awkward in this movie. He is awkward. The way he laughs when he's supposed to be crying, the way he laughs when he's visible, very upset. It's amazing. And Matt, you said it best. They were very brave to make this movie. He was brave, and Todd Phillips, the director, as well. The cinematography in this is incredible. The black and white, the tube TVs, just the way the expressions. I mean, Lady Gaga totally nails Harley Quinn. I know there's been different stories of Harley Quinn that she was actually a psychiatrist for him. In this, she's actually uh, she puts herself in Arkham Asylum just voluntarily, and the music is great. The scene with the Joker smile in the glass where he goes up to it and he's got the Joker smile is great. It's so well done. He representing himself in court with makeup was perfect for his character. Overall, I liked the movie a lot. I didn't care for the ending, which I won't give away. But for me, two thumbs up. It's a musical. Maybe that's not who the original people who were watching this, that wasn't their idea. A lot of people don't like musicals. Um, but I'm not most people. So that's how I felt about the second Joker.
Okay. I have a lot that I want to say. But maybe Bryant, you want to go first because I know that your opinion is going to differ from ours.
I thought the movie was horrible. I thought it was bad. Um, I thought some of the musical numbers made no sense to the story of the movie, which is why I don't think I connected with the musical aspect. I wasn't as concerned about the musical side of it. I was wondering how they would tie it together. And I felt like they focused more on the musical part than the story part. Because there's a few songs in there that they just start going to, and you're like, "What's this got to do with the story? What we're just breaking in the song, and it doesn't tie into what we're talking about at this point." And that was a disconnect for me. But I just think I'm with Brad. The ending is terrible. I didn't like the ending, and I didn't like how the director came out later and goes, "Well, I never said, tried to cover his tracks and backtrack his statement from before." But that's part of the reason I just didn't like it. I didn't think it flowed as a movie as well as the first one did. So
Yeah, all valid. I actually don't think it flowed too well. And I am not like a musicals guy. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I think most of the time when I'm watching a musical that the songs kind of come out of nowhere and make no sense. That's just my general opinion. I mean, I live, adjacent to New York City where Broadway is, and I think I've been to three Broadway plays in my life. I mean, I know people who've been to dozens and dozens. It's the thing people love to do, and it's just not. I like cinema more than I like theater. All right, so I wrote down so many things. Um, How much did I like the movie? A lot, but nowhere near as much as I liked the first movie. I thought the first movie was spectacular. And I'm going to say more about that in a minute. They were very brave to take what was the highest grossing rated R film ever in the first Joker and then make a complete left turn and, put Lady Gaga in it and do the musical take. I mean, that is almost lunacy that they did that because they that cost them millions of dollars. That cost them because the moment the movie came out and people started to thumbs down it because of the what it was, not everybody ran out to see it, and I think it was probably destined to make more money than the first movie because of how good the first movie was. So that was like the art winning over the money, I think. Um, and obviously Lady Gaga is very talented. Joaquin's got to be one of the best actors of our time, I think. He really embodies the roles that he takes on. He's got that overly artsy, crazy, lunatic sort of existence. If you've ever seen him like, do regular person interviews and stuff, he's that he's that kind of weird guy. But I really did like the movie. Um, I want to go back to something that Brad said when you were talking about Tony Soprano. So I do have an issue if, and you didn't use this word, I'm going to use it now. If the protagonist,
I was looking for that word.
if the protagonist is someone that I don't like, that I'm not rooting for, I have a very hard time watching or enjoying whatever that is. And Sopranos is the perfect example. I only watched the first season of Sopranos, and I really did not care for it. And I understand how unpopular of a position that is, because it's one of the most beloved shows of all time, I think. I mean, especially if you're an Italian from the Northeast, such as myself. I mean, they lived in New Jersey, not far from me, and the strip club is like in the town I grew up in.
Nice.
But um, I did not root for Tony as the protagonist, so I didn't really like. That's just one example. Anytime I don't like the protagonist. The other thing I want to talk about is Todd Phillips, the director. This guy has, I think, quietly had an absolutely amazing career as a filmmaker. Um, I've got his IMDb page ready, and as I already mentioned, when Joker came out, it was the highest rated or highest grossing R-rated movie ever. R-rated movies don't tend to make as much as uh, lower rated movies because you can't bring your family there and you're not buying tickets for the children. So that's a feat. It has since been surpassed by the Deadpool Wolverine movie, but that's okay. But he did the same thing in 2009 with The Hangover. In 2009, The Hangover was the highest rated R-rated. I keep saying that, the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time, and that turned into a three-movie franchise that made probably well over $1 billion. By the way, I thought those movies were a little overrated. They were good. First one was good.
First one only.
First one was good. It was a little overrated. But he's made some pretty impressive movies, and he also made a documentary in 2000. Well, actually, before I get to that, he directed Old School, which I love, and he actually had a cameo in that movie. He's the guy who rings the bell and says, "I'm here for the gangbang."
Yeah.
That's Todd
Mhm.
Phillips. Um, but in 2000, before he made any of these movies, he made a documentary about one of my favorite bands, Fish. It's called Bittersweet Motel. And I'm sure if you're a Fish fan, you've already seen it and you know all about it. And that's 25 years ago. He followed them around for a while and made a really cool film. So, I mean, the guy's made documentaries, he's made comedies, he's made, R-rated dramas, musicals, and they've all been crazy successful. I mean, I'm impressed by him.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I've said too much.
To put a pin in this, I just want to say also that I think the movie embodies mental health issues, and also that I'm not 100% sure of this, but I think all the singing that went on was in his head of the Joker.
Interesting.
That's my take on that.
The subtitle of the movie, that's what that means, right? The folie à deux is they have a shared insanity. That's what
Yeah,
that means, right?
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know we're getting short on time, but I have to say this. This is my duck eggs, real quick, guys. Because of Notre Dame football, okay? What movie does everybody think about with Notre Dame football? Since they won this week, we think of Rudy. I need to talk about Dan Devine. Dan Devine was the coach of Notre Dame when Rudy was on it in his final year. Dan Devine in the movie was portrayed by actor Chelsea Ross. In the film, Devine was portrayed in somewhat of an unfavorable light, acting as a hindrance to Daniel Rodeker's dream of dressing for Notre Dame or appearing in a game. Devine was reported to be incensed with how he was portrayed in the film, noting that Devine had planned to allow Rudy to play all along. Devine also maintained that none of the players laid down their jerseys on the desk as a form of protest, and if they had, they would have been kicked off the squad. Devine was asked by movie producers to allow a dramatization of his character, but he didn't expect it to be played so heavy and was very disappointed. So just so everybody knows, the guy that says he wasn't going to let Rudy play in the movie 100% was going to let him play, and they made him a villain in the movie. And talk about doing someone dirty, right? I just can't believe that. They made him pure evil in that movie. And by the way, I don't believe him though, that if everybody did lay down their jersey, I know that didn't happen, but if they did, he ain't suspending the whole team. I'm going to tell you that right now. He can say what he wants there. They're playing. That was the whole point. The whole team's not there. Someone's going to play. They're going to make something happen, but that never happened. Just thought that was interesting, guys. So go Irish. Still don't know who won this game yet, but that's going to bring us to the socials in next week, Matt.
Okay. We are Three Eggs Are Better Than One, and we're cooking up every Monday morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts. Find us on YouTube at Three Eggs Are Better Than One. The number 3, the letter R, the number 1. Follow us on X, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok at Three Eggs Are Better. The number 3, the letter R. Individual accounts at YesManBrad, at B Haremza, and I am at Purple Shirt Guy without the I. And I will be the main topic for next week. And I have a question for you guys. Brad, I know you've been to Philadelphia. I live pretty close. I've been to Philadelphia. Brian, have you ever been to Philadelphia?
I have not, no.
Not been to Philadelphia. I'm going to talk about a little show that's been on the air for 20 years called It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
All right. All right. Well, that's it. But Bryant, take us home.
Well, we want to thank you guys for joining us this week. We hope that you learn a little bit about some rivalries. You have took our opinions of Joker and hopefully have your own as well. And on top of that, learned a little bit on Girl Scout cookies. Want to thank you for joining us this week. The egg timer's been set. We'll see you guys later.